Hello Abdi and welcome to a Scots Radio special. I'm Alistair Heather. Today we're doing an Auld Reekie and we're looking at how Burns is being commemorated on the anniversary of his birthday. We've got loads of places to Ginty up and down the Royal Mile, but our first port of call is Richt Heid, the Scottish Storytelling Centre in the Old House of John Knox. I'll be speaking at Donald Smith, here at the Storytelling Centre, about the life and work of Rabbie Burns and his great masterpiece Tam O'Shanter. First off, for folks that maybe didn't ken much about Rabbie Burns or his work, what is it about Tam O'Shanter that's so popular and so important in his work?
Well, Tam O'Shanter is an Ayrshire tale. It's very much part of Burns' own local identity, his own family, his upbringing. The scenes there at Alloway Kirk, that was the family kirk. Burns' own father's buried in the kirkyard. But I think as well, it's rare for Burns to have a narrative poem. And Tam is based on 3 or 4 wee clutch of local traditions, local folk tales about the kirkyard, the witches, so forth. So it's quite different, stands out in his overall work.
He brought a book called God, the Poet and the Devil, Robert Burns and Religion. Tam O'Shanter is a tale that has evil and devil all through it. Can you give us a bit of an insight to how that's used?
I will. On the one hand, it's for humour. It's the Burns laughing at the deal, and undermining some of the strict Calvinist religion, which was in Ayrshire in his day, but he didn't belong to that kind of tradition. But also the deal and the Coven of the Witches at Alloway, they are part of the old religion, the old paganism. And Burns, he's also got a wee sense of that, or the life of it, the energy of it, the power of it, that comes out in the big party at the kirkyard. So it's different ways that he plays religion and the sense of the devil in Tam and in many other poems.
So do you think Rabbie credited the existence of a deal himself? And if so, what kind of deal do you think he imagined?
No, I think that he was definitely cutting away the ground from under that old superstition. Yet he kent the power of it, he kent the role of it in the culture, in the society, and he still represents that. But more to the point, I reckon, is that the deal, often the deal, it's the power of life, the energy of life. And that's so strong in Rabbie's poems. And then that's also the tenderness when the powers of life wane, and there's the need for kindness and gentleness and all that. And Burns, he went through all that himself in his own life. And for him, religion and all its parts is a way to express that.
That's really interesting. So, moving on now, we're standing here in the Storytelling Centre. Like ilka year, you have a wheenie Burns-related events for the Burns season. And like ilka year, it's guy busy. You're throng with folk that are wanting to ken more about Burns. How do you explain this eye-biding popularity of the man and his work?
I think there's 2 things going on here. One, Burns is he's a great artist. He's one of the world's great. He's one of Scotland's finest. Great art doesn't age. Burns is modern. He's part of a tradition, but he's also part of Scotland new and a world culture new, like a Dylan or whatever. So that's one. He's such an important part of Scotland's artistic strength and resource in the world today. And thank God Scots folk are getting more interested in that. And folk frae all over the world are interested in it. So that's grown. But there's another thing. The Burns Day falls new as part of the government winter festivals, Scotland's winter festivals. That's a broad idea. Because, it's January. It's cold. The next Rabbi was born. The hoose fell down on top of him in a storm. Say, you've got that sense it's the right time of the year to get round the fireside, to tell the stories, sing the songs, eat the food, have a wee jar, and keep us ganging through the winter.
Donald took us out the centre and into the cold Edinburgh afternoon. A few yards down the Royal Mile are the gravestones of the Canongate Kirkyard. There, he let us ken all about this earth where the bard left his mark on the capital.
So this is Robert Ferguson, Burns' poetic hero, the young Edinburgh poet who in his turn inspired by Alan Ramsay decides in the wake of the whole England-Scotland union to tack up Scots again and to make Scots a literary tongue frae the smart young folk of the town. Auld Reekie, wail a wilka tune that Scotland kens beneath the moon, where couthie chiels at e'en meet their bizen craigs and moos to wheat, and blithely gar auld care gae by, we blink it wi' blearin' eye. Or lang frae thee the muse has been sae frisky on the summer's green, when flowers and gowans want to glent and bonny blinks up the bent. But noo the leaves aye yellow dye, peeled frae the branches quickly fly, and noo frae neither bush nor brier the speckled mavis greets your ear, nor bonny blackbird skims and roves to seek his love in yonder groves.
So we're standing now in a kirkyard just outside the Scottish Storytelling Centre. It's a point that was guy significant in the life of Burns. Yet for an Irishman, what was he doing with so much to do in Edinburgh?
Well, we're in the Canongate Kirkyard, and up above us here is the Burns Monument, designed by the radical young architect Thomas Hamilton. It's a great tribute to the importance of Burns for the national tradition of Scotland. But there's a personal thing to here, because Burns' hero, Ferguson, the young poet, when Burns came up to Edinburgh frae Ayrshire after the Kilmarnock edition had been published, he was fell struck to hear that Ferguson was dead. And he asked it where he was buried, and they tell him down here in the Canongate Kirkyard, but nae gravestone, nae marker. For Ferguson died in the Bedlam with nae siller, and he was buried here in a pauper's grave. And Burns himself, who didn't hae too much siller, paid to hae a gravestone put up and an inscription put on it in tribute to this young poet who had died so tragically. And with a strange quirk of fate, round the other side of the kirkyard, Agnes Macklehose, Clorinda, Burns' great friend and lover perhaps here in Edinburgh, she's buried here and all.
So Donald, where's this Clorinda, whose grave we're standing next to?
Clorinda's cry Agnes Macklehose. Clorinda's a kind of disguise name. Burns cried himself Sylvander, and they're writing these fancy love letters one to another. But she's an independent-minded woman all the time. She left an abusive husband, a drunk, and she came through to Edinburgh. She keep it hard her 12 bairns and set up a new life for herself here, and she wanted to be part of the cultural literary scene of the town, and she was delighted when she meets Burns, and he was delighted too, and a grand friendship struck up, but for Burns, he was maybe keen on a wee bit more than friendship. And say it develops one way and the other. We didn't really ken the details. We didn't need to. In the end, Burns hies away home to Ayrshire and he screeves her a fond kiss.
Now, you say she's an independent woman in life. Indeed, she isn't mind it as Agnes. She's mind it as Clorinda. Is that no a sense of ownership for a you on the grave?
Aye, and to tell the truth, I think it's terrible the way she's been described by men and women, the both. Mere sexist comment about Agnes MacLehose than anything gain. In truth, she's an interesting woman in her own right, and she should be remembered in her own right. And she came from Glasgow. Her father was the toon surgeon. Our family were also linked in with the Gaeldom, and she deserves better than what she's had. We sever, fare we all, and then forever, deep in her drunk tears, I'll pledge thee. Warning sighs and groans, I'll wait thee. Who shall say that fortune grieves him, while the star of hope she leaves him? Me nature full twinkle lights me. Dark despair around me hides me.
Wheel, that was braw. Now, we've come just after the Royal Mile and doing a wee closey. Outside the Saltire Society. The Society is one of the great cultural centres of Embra, and this Burns season, their exhibit examining Burns's relationship with poor and politics of his day. It's called Pith and Poor, and we're here to hear a blether with the curator, Andrew Barr. So Andrew,
Yeah.
You've got an exhibit on Pith and Poor at the Saltire Society.
Yes.
Can you tell us a wee bit about what's brought that around and what's in it?
Yeah, so it's an exhibition which is it focuses on Burns's relationship with politics and power. So Burns was quite a political poet. He wrote a lot about injustice and poverty and equality between people. In fact, sometimes he was so political that he didn't even attach his name to some of his work. And the idea for this exhibition came to me at the end of 2017. A lot of people were talking about the year, saying that it had been a bad year for politics internationally. People felt that a lot of things were going backwards. And so I thought it might be a nice idea to start the new year, to start 2018, with an exhibition that explores Burns's humanitarian messages.
That's really interesting. So what is it about Burns that makes him so relevant to the modern Scotland?
Well, I think that he lived in such a different time, but he lived in a really pivotal time in Scottish history. He lived in the aftermath of the Act of Union between England and Scotland, and that was a really interesting time because a lot of Scottish writers were beginning to drop their distinct Scots language because plain English had become the dominant language of business and government. But Burns didn't really buy into that whole idea. He wanted to emphasise the distinctness of Scottish culture and literature. He also lived in a time of Jacobites and the Scottish Enlightenment. So Scotland was full of all these different ideas, competing ideas sometimes. So he couldn't really avoid politics even if he wanted to. And I think that's what makes him and his time so interesting.
Great. And your exhibition, Pith and Poor, takes place in a guy trying time for Burns events and Burns season doing the Embra.
Yes.
What is it about this that's a wee bit different, and what ideas do you hope folk will come away with after visiting?
Well, I did want to put something on that was different to the traditional Burns suppers. I think sometimes the Burns suppers can focus too much on the kind of couthy stuff and not really focus enough on his actual messages. So I wanted to bypass all of that haggis, neeps and tatties and just focus directly on Burns's messages. So I hope that people come along to the exhibition and maybe discover a new side of Burns, or maybe come away with something that they didn't know about him before.
That's really interesting. Do you feel that Rabbie is still a useful symbol? As for you, a young artist, to still be using them? What is it about him that makes him relevant to modern artists and modern thinkers?
I think he still has so much to say about modern society, because a lot of the things he talks about, injustice, and a lot of the things haven't changed all that much. And there's a real timelessness to Burns. I think one of the good examples of his influence on modern politics in Scotland is thinking back to the opening of the Scottish Parliament in 1999. All the new MSPs got together in the new Parliament and sang A Man's a Man, which is that amazing Burns anthem about equality. And it was just quite amazing that even though Burns had been dead for so long, he still kind of came back to embody people's hopes for a modern Scotland. And I found that really interesting. And I think that tells us a lot about the kind of power and timelessness of Burns.
So, in terms of the work that's at the exhibition, it's your own work, and it's a lot of it works together with Burns's lyrics and words. We kind of visualizations of the ideas. Let's hear we look at one of them. Can you tell us a bit about this piece here?
Sure. Well, one of the new pieces is called The Tree of Liberty, and it's kind of based on the poem of the same name, and it incorporates some of his lyrics into this tree of liberty that grows out of a garden, a kind of garden city. And it's from this idea that a tree of liberty comes out from the streets, comes out from the people. And so the poem actually, this is actually the last verse of the poem, and it talks about equal rights and equal laws gladdening every isle. And I quite liked that idea because it's still so relevant and still so humanitarian. So that's why I decided to do this illustration.
It certainly looks fantastic. Thanks very much, Andrew. It's Guy interested.
Thank you.
Andrew's exhibit, Pith and Poor, will be on at the Saltire Society just after Royal Mile for the 25th of January through the 15th of March. So get yourself down. The last thing we did on our journey down to Auld Reekie was meet back up with Donald over at the Storytelling Centre. Together, we climbed the stairs up to John Knox's own fireside, where Donald gave us his famous rendition of Tam o' Shanter.
Tam o' Shanter. Of browness and bogles fou is this book. When Chapman Billies leave the street and drouthy neighbours meet, market days are wearing late and folk begin to tack the gate, while we sit boozing at the nappy and getting fou and unca happy. We think now on the lang Scots miles, the mosses, watters, slaps and stiles that lie between us and our hame, where sits our sulky, sullen dame, gathering our brews like gathering storm, nursing our wrath to keep it warm. This truth and honest Tam o' Shanter, as he I nicht frae air did canter. Oh dear, when ne'er a town surpasses for honest men and bonny lasses. Ah, Tam, hadst thou but been sae wise as ta'en thy ain wife Kate's advice, she told thee weel thou was a skellum, a blethering, blustering, drunken blellum, that frae November till October, I market day thou wasna sober, that ilka melder wi' the miller, thou sat as lang as thou had siller, that every naig was cad a shoe on, the smith and thee gat roaring fu on, that at the Lord's hoose even on Sunday, thou drank with Captain Jean till Monday. She prophesied that late or soon thou wad be found deep drowned in Doon, or catched wi' warlocks in the murk by Alloway's old haunted kirk. Ah, gentle dames, it gars me greet to think who mony counsels sweet, who mony lengthened sage advices the husband frae the wife despises. But to our tale, I merk it nicht Tam had got planted uncorrect, fast by an ingle bleezing finely, with reaming swats that drank divinely, and at his elbow suitor Johnny, his ancient trusty drouthy crony. Tam looed him like a very brother, they had been fou for weeks together. The nicht drave on with sangs and clatter, and aye the ale was growing better. The landlady and Tam grew gracious, with favours secret, sweet and precious. The suitor told his queerest stories, the landlord's laugh was ready chorus. The storm without micht rare and rustle, Tam didna mind the storm a whistle. Care, mad to see a man sae happy, he'd drowned himsel among the nappy. As bees flee hame wi' laids o' treasure, the minutes winged their way wi' pleasure. Kings may be blessed, but Tam was glorious, o'er a' the ills o' life victorious. But pleasures are like poppies spread. He sees the flower, its bloom is shed, or like the snow falls in the river, a moment white, then melts forever, or like the borealis race that flit ere you can point their place, or like the rainbow's lovely form, evanishing amid the storm. Nae man can tether time nor tide. The hour approaches, Tam on ride. That hour on next black arch the key stain, that dreary hour Tam mounts his beast in, and sick a nicht he tags the road in, as ne'er poor sinner was abroad in. The wind blew as 'twad blown its last, the rattling showers rose on the blast, the speedy gleams the darkness swallowed, loud, deep and lang the thunder bellowed. That nicht a child maun understand, the deil had business in his hand. Wheel mounted on his grey mare Meg, a better never lifted leg, Tam skelpit on through doob and mire, despising wind and rain and fire, was hodding fast his good blue bonnet, was crooning o'er some old Scots sonnet, was glowering round wi' prudent care, lest bogles catch him unaware. Kirk Alloway was drawing nigh, where geese and hoolits nichtly cry. By this time he was crossed the ford, where in the snaw the chapman smoored, and past the birks and meikle stane, where drunken Charlie bracks neck bane, and through the winds by the cairn, where hunters found the murdered bairn, and near the thorn aboon the well, where Mungo's mother hanged hersel. Before him Doon pours all his floods, the doubling storm rose through the woods, the lightnings flash frae pole to pole, and they ran more near the thunder's roll, when, glimmering through the groaning trees, Kirk Alloway seemed in a blaze. Through ilka board the bleams were dancing, and loud resounded mirth and dancing. Inspiring bold John Barleycorn, with dangers thou canst mak us scorn, wi' tippenny, wi' fear nae evil, wi' Usqua Bay we'll face the deal. The swats he reamed in Tammy's noddle, fair play he cared na deals a boddle, but Maggie stood recht sair astonished, till by the heel and hand admonished she ventured forward on the licht, and vow Tam saw a nunca sicht, warlocks and witches in a dance, nae cotillion brent new frae France, but hornpipes, jigs for spaes, and reels put life and meikle in their heels. And when it bunkered in the east, there sat old Nick, in shape o' beast, a towsy tyke back, grim and large. To give them music was his charge. He screwed the pipes and gart them skirl, till roof and rafters added dirl. Coffins stood round like open presses, that shod the deed in their last dresses, and by some devilish cantrip slicked, each in its cold hand held a licht, by which I wrote Tam was able to rate upon the Haley table. A murderer's banes and gibbet airns, twa span lang wi unchristened bairns, a thief new cutted frae a rape, whose last gasp is gabbed and gape, 5 tomahawks wi blood red rusted, 5 scimitars wi murder crusted, a garter which a babe had strangled, a knife a father's throat had mangled, whom his ain son of life bereft, the grey hairs yet stacked to the heft, with mair horrible and awful, which even to name would be unlawful. As Tammy glowered, amazed and curious, the mirth and fun grew fast and furious. The piper loud and louder blew, the dancers quick and quicker flew. They reeled, they set, they crossed, they cleek it to Lilka Carl and swat and reek it, and coosed their duddies to the work and link it at it in their sark. A tam had they been queens, a plump and strapping in their teens. Their sarks instead of creasy flannin been snow white, 1700 linen. Their breeks o' mine, my only pair, the ants were plush o' good blue hair. I would hae gi'en them off my hardies, for I blink o' the bonny birdies. But withered beldams, auld and droll, red woody hags would spain a fall, louping and flinging in a crummock. I wondered didna turn the stomach. But Tam kent what was fou brawly. There was aye winsome wench and Wally, that nicht enlisted in the corps, lang after Kent and Carrick shore. For mony a beast to deed she shot, and perished mony a bonny boat, and shoot baith meikle corn and beer, and held the countryside in fear. Her cutty sark o' Paisley harn, that while a lassie she had worn, in longitude though sorely scanty, it was her best, and she was vaunty. Little kent thy reverent granny, that sark she coughed for her wee nanny, wi' 2 Scots was all her riches. With ever grace, a dance o' witches. Here my muse her wing maun cour. Sick flesh are far beyond her poor, to sing who nanny lap and flang, a supple jade she was and strang, and how Tam stood like ane bewitched, thought he's very ain enriched. E'en sate and glowered and fidged fu fain, and hotched and blew wi' micht and main, till first I caper sin another, Tam tint his reason a' together and roars out, "Well done, cutty sark!" And in an instant all was dark, and scarcely had he Maggie rallied, when out the hellish legion sallied. When bees bezoot wi' angry fight, when plundering herds assail their bite, as open pussy's mortal foes, when pulp she starts before their nose, as eager runs the market crowd, when catch the thief resounds aloud, so Maggie runs, the witches follow, when mony a nail great screech and hollow. A tam, thou get thy faring, in hell they'll roast thee like a herring. In vain thy Kate awaits thy coming, Kate soon will be a wolf, a woman. Now do thy speedy utmost, Meg, and win the key stain o' the brig. There at them now thy tail may toss, a running stream they dare not cross. But ere the keystone she could make, the fiend a tail she had to shake. For Nanny, far before the rest, hard upon noble Maggie press, and flew at Tam with furious ettle. Little wish she Maggie's mettle, I spring brocht off her maester hail, but left behind her ain grey tail. The carlin cocked her by the rump, and left puir Maggie scarce a stump. Now, wha this tale of truth shall read, ilk man and mother's son tak heed. Whene'er to drink ye are inclined, or cutty sarks run in your mind, think ye may buy the joys our dear. Remember Tam Shanter's mere.